Hi, and welcome to dive deeper into writing tools. I'm Dongyuan. I work on text input and internationalization. Last year, we introduced writing tools and showed how to integrate it in your app. Today, we'll explore some more advanced topics. I'll show you what's new in writing tools. Ways to customize the writing tools experience in native text views. How to have writing tools work seamlessly with rich text. And finally, how to integrate a full writing tools experience if your app has a custom text engine. Let's get started. With writing tools, people can refine their words by rewriting, proofreading, and summarizing text right inside their text views. This year, we've added many new features to writing tools. With ChatGPT integration, you can also generate content for anything you want to write about, or create images with a simple prompt. Writing tools are now available on Vision OS. They work nearly everywhere, including Mail, Notes, and in apps that you create. New in iOS, iPadOS, and macOS 26, after describing changes to rewrite text, you can enter a follow-up request. For example, you can ask to make the text warmer, more conversational, or more encouraging. In addition, writing tools are available as shortcuts, so you can take your workflows to the next level with Apple Intelligence. Tools like proofread, rewrite, and summarize can now be used in an automated fashion. We've also added a variety of APIs to help your app support writing tools. You can now get the stock toolbar button and the standard menu items. Ask writing tools to return presentation intents for rich text, or integrate the powerful writing tools coordinator into your custom text engine. We'll dive deeper into the new result options and the coordinator API later. Next up, let's talk about how to customize writing tools in native text views provided by the system. Last year's writing tools video covers the basics. For native text views, you can get the writing tool support for free. You can take advantage of the lifecycle methods to react to writing tools operations like pausing syncing. Customize your text view to use limited or full writing tools behavior. You can specify ranges you don't want writing tools to rewrite, or use result options to manage support for rich text, lists, or tables. Keep in mind that in last year's session, result options were named allowed input options. They have been renamed to writing tools result options for clarity. Although writing tools is available when you select text, if your app is text-heavy, consider adding a toolbar button, like we did for Notes and Mail. To do that, use UI bar button item in UIKit or NS toolbar item in AppKit. In the context menu, writing tools items are inserted automatically. If you have a custom menu implementation, or if you want to move the writing tools items around, you can set automatically inserts writing tools items to false, and use the writing tools items API to get standard items. This year, we updated proofread, rewrite, and summary options in the menu. Using the API ensures that you get all the updates for free. Now, let's talk about formatting. Apps have many kinds of text views. Some text views don't support rich text, like the search field in Finder. Some text views support rich text, like TextEdit. Some text views support semantic styles, like Notes. Here you can specify paragraphs with different semantic styles, such as heading, subheading, or block quote. For example, in Notes, the result from writing tools can utilize native notes, headings, tables, and lists. To tell writing tools what kind of text your text view supports, use writing tools result options. For plain text views, use the plain text result option. Writing tools will still use NS attribute string to communicate with your text view, but you can safely ignore all the attributes inside. For rich text views, like the one in TextEdit, use the rich text result option, with or without the list and table options, depending on if your text view supports lists and tables. writing tools may add display attributes like bold or italic to the attribute string. Apps that have specialized understanding of semantic formats like Notes can use the rich text option with the new presentation intent option. Writing tools will use NS attribute string with presentation intents to communicate with your text view. You may wonder what's the difference between display attributes and presentation intents. In the text-edit example, writing tools produce rich text by using display attributes like bold or italic and sends the attributed string to the text view. These attributes only carry stylistic information like concrete font sizes, but not semantic style information. In contrast, Notes tries to fully utilize native semantic styles like headers. Although writing tools generated the same text underneath, we instead add presentation intents to the attributed string. Notes can then convert presentation intents to its internal semantic styles. From this example, you can see that the headers part is just a header intent without concrete fonts attributes. Note that even if presentation intent is specified in the result options, writing tools may still add display attributes to the attributed string, because some styles can be represented by presentation intents. In this example, writing tools use both an emphasized presentation intent and a strike-through display attribute to represent the text crucial and deleted in the screenshot. To summarize, in presentation intent mode, we'll provide styles in the presentation intent form whenever possible. This includes elements like lists, tables, and code blocks. Display attributes may still be used for attributes like underlines, subscript, and superscript. And lastly, presentation intents don't have a default style. Your app is responsible for converting presentation intents into display attributes, or its own internal styles. To have writing tools understand the semantics of your text better, once you've adopted the presentation intent option, you can override the request contexts method for your text view and supply a context with presentation intents whenever possible. Finally, even if you have a completely custom text engine, we've got you covered. You can get a basic writing tools experience for free, as long as your text engine has adopted common text editing protocols. On iOS, that's UI text interaction, or UI text selection display interaction with UI edit menu interaction. On macOS, your view needs to adopt NS services menu requester. This gives your text view writing tools, as well as support for features in the services menu. For details on the basic adoption, check out the WWDC25 session. If you want to go one step further, you can implement the full writing tools experience. This gives writing tools the ability to rewrite text in place, provide animation, and show proofreading changes right in line. This year, we've added writing tools coordinator APIs for custom text engines. The writing tools coordinator manages interactions between your view and writing tools. You attach a coordinator to your view and create a delegate to implement the writing tools coordinator delegate methods. The delegate prepares the context for writing tools to work on, incorporates changes, provides preview objects to use during animations, provides coordinates for writing tools to draw proofreading marks, and responds to state changes. To bring it all to life, let me walk you through a quick demo. Here I have a custom text engine built using TextKit 2. As you can see, we already implemented common text editing protocols like NS Text Input Client and NS Services Menu Requester. If I build and run the app, I get the basic writing tool support for free. All the results will be shown in a panel. I can do a rewrite, for example, and replace or copy the result. Now let's implement full writing tool support. In the document view, I'm gonna add some instance properties that are needed during a WritingTools session. Initialize an NS WritingTools coordinator object. Set the delegate to self, and assign it to an NS view. I also need to call this configure WritingTools in init. Of course, it complains that document view does not conform to NS WritingTools coordinator delegate. Let's drag in a file that implements all the delegate methods in the document view extension. You can see that it prepares the context, does text replacement and selection, returns bounding boxes for proofreading, generates previews for animation, etc. Let's build and run the app. If I rewrite the text, you can see the animation and the text change happens directly in the text view. And if I proofread, you can see the underlines added by WritingTools. I can also click on the individual suggestions to show what's changed. Now let's talk about each of those steps in more detail. The first thing to do is to create a coordinator and attach it to a view. WritingTools coordinator is an UI interaction in UIKit, and you attach it to your UI view, just like other UI interactions. In AppKit, it's an instance property on NS view. Once you have a coordinator, you can set your preferred WritingTools behavior and result options. Now let's get to the delegate methods. First and foremost, WritingTools need a context for the current text. A context consists of a piece of text as an NS attribute string and a selection range. At minimum, you should include the current text selection in the attribute string. Optionally, you can also include the paragraph before and after the selection. That gives WritingTools a better understanding of the context around the text. Set the range to what's currently selected based on context.attribute string. If nothing is selected, return the whole document as the context, and set the range to the cursor location. This gives WritingTools an opportunity to work on the whole document when people haven't specifically selected anything. This is how you provide context. Here I'm showing AppKit, but unless I specifically point it out, you can assume that UI WritingTools coordinator and NS WritingTools coordinator behave the same way. The delegate methods are async because large text views may take time to process the underlying text storage. In the body of the function, prepare the text and range depending on the scope parameter. Most of the time, you only need to return one context. For sophisticated text views in which text in multiple text storages can be selected at the same time, the coordinator also supports multiple contexts. After evaluating your view's text, WritingTools delivers suggested changes to your delegate object. In this replace text delegate method, incorporate the change into your view's text storage. WritingTools call this method for each distinct change, and may call this method multiple times with different range values for the same context object. Once finished processing, WritingTools may ask the delegate to update the selected text range. To animate the text while WritingTools are processing, the coordinator asks for preview images for certain ranges of text. TextView should return previews by rendering the text on a clear background. During animations, WritingTools apply the visual effects to the provided preview images instead of to the text itself. On macOS, this is done via two delegate methods. The first delegate method takes an array. You should return at least one preview for the whole range. Optionally, return one preview per line for smoother animation. On iOS, UIKit uses UI targeted preview instead of NS text preview. and only one delegate method is used. Before and after the actual animation, WritingTools calls the prepare for and finish methods. To prepare for the text animation, hide the specific range of text from the text view. Once the animation finishes, show the specific range of text again. For proofreading, WritingTools shows an underline for text ranges that were changed. WritingTools also responds to click events in ranges of text to show the inline proofreading pop-up. To show proofreading marks, the coordinator asks the delegate to return the underlined Bezier path for individual ranges. WritingTools also need the bounding Bezier path to respond to click or tap events. Lastly, you can implement the optional WritingTools coordinator will change to state completion method to respond to state changes. You may want to perform undo coalescing, stop syncing, or prevent editing, depending on your text field implementation. Conversely, you should inform the coordinator about external changes via the update range with text to make sure WritingTools operations are in sync with the latest text. Use update for reflow text to notify WritingTools about layout changes in your view. When you call this method, WritingTools requests new previews, proofreading marks, and other layout-dependent information. We've seen how to integrate the full WritingTools experience with your powerful custom text engine. We've also released a project I showed earlier as sample code. Check out the sample code and the complete documentation about WritingTools Coordinator to learn more. That wraps up the session. What's next? Try out new WritingTools features, like follow-up adjustments after you describe your changes, or WritingTools in Vision Pro and the Shortcuts app. Add a toolbar button if your app is text-heavy. Play with the formatting options to allow WritingTools to read and write semantic styles like headings, subheadings, and code blocks. If you already have a powerful text engine, empower it further with the full WritingTools experience. Also check out Get Started with WritingTools from last year, and the WritingTools sample code linked below if you want to see how WritingTools Coordinator works in action. Thanks for watching.